Hello and welcome to the first installment of Full Flow Video's Fantasy Analysis. I am your commissioner, Tony Davis.
And I am former professional journalist Spencer Broughten. What we're going to do here is we're going to go through how each team drafted. We're going to do it in random order of sorts. We're going to go back and forth, each of us talking about one team at a time. And then at the end, we're going to kind of give what we thought of how the 12 teams fared at this point here in the preseason, or at least through one half of one game here. We're going to start off first by talking about everyone's pariah, Joel Rindelab.
And it may help if you pull open everyone's team as we go in your web browser, just to kind of help us look at this at the same time as we go along here. Starting with Joel, well, obviously he went Calvin in the first round. Great pick. After that, things kind of went downhill. Spence and I discussed all these teams individually together, and we were sort of in agreement on this one that it got a little bit weak, especially in the running back area. You're looking at Ahmad Bradshaw and Beanie Wells as your starting running backs. That's not ideal. And then when you go to the bench, it just gets worse with Ronnie Brown and Kendall Hunter, who, you know, Ronnie Brown you're looking at starting this week, but after that, probably not going to get much time at all. And then with Hunter, I mean, he's going to struggle to get carries pretty much the whole season, I think. So that is definitely his weak spot. Wide receivers solid with Victor Cruz and Stevie Johnson. And Phillip Rivers, you know, you love to hate him, but he puts up numbers every year, so that'll be okay. Rob Gronkowski, great pick there. So I guess it's really a matter of depth that scares Spence and I, and it's those running backs. And running backs is so key. It's such a key position in fantasy that's why we both graded him fairly low. I believe I have him as a C.
I had him as a C minus, a little bit lower because I got kind of aggravated trying to rile him from his hungover slumber several times during the course of the draft.
There may have been a frustration factor involved in this grade a little bit with Joel, but
first time that anybody ever gets skipped for a pick too. Got to bring that up.
Yep. So and we'll take that into account with these grades as well. So that's where we're at with Joel, C and C minus.
Definitely demeanor comes into play here when we're talking about these grades a little bit.
So from here we're going to go from Joel to Connor.
Next up we had Connor, new team name today, the Little Engines That Won't. A little bit of a rip on himself, but hey, you know, maybe this year he'll finally make the playoffs and he can come up with a new team name. Had the number one pick, went with Aaron Rodgers. First off, you can't argue with that. The guy scores more points than anybody else in all of fantasy. Went running backs, Jamal Charles. I believe he was in the 2-3, as well as Brandon Marshall in the turnaround. Can't really complain about Jamal, probably one of the best running backs right there. But Brandon Marshall, some other guys are on the board there. You know, it's a matter of preference, I guess, to some extent. The problem came in at the 4-5 split. Willis McGahee, Eric Decker. Denver running back, Denver wideout. Don't really want to do that, especially that early in the draft. Have two guys that you need to rely on most of the year on the same team at running back and wideout. Didn't like those picks really at all. The wideout depth will be okay. Torrey Smith will be in a good fourth, right on the border of third and fourth, you'd think, especially after Kenny Britt comes back from his one-game suspension. I'm higher on Kenny than Tony is a little bit. But just didn't really like where this draft headed after that fourth-round pick. With that, I ended up giving Connor a C on his picks this year.
I was a little bit higher on Connor's picks. I went B minus, C plus range. I think a lot of that for me has to do with Aaron Rodgers. I just know the guy's going to win weeks for whoever drafts him, so you're guaranteed to get a couple wins just from having Aaron Rodgers. And so therefore, we're talking B minus, C plus range for me. And from there, we're going to go to Silky. Silky, of course, comes in with the Larry Fitzgerald pick, kind of a surprise in the first round. And with that, he netted himself some good wide receiver depth, much like Joel. Once again, a little bit lacking in an area, this time not running back, this time we're talking quarterback. Definitely the worst quarterback situation in the league, I think he'll be the first to tell you that. Ends up with Robert Griffin III as his starter. Starting a rookie week one is maybe scarier in fantasy than it is in the real NFL. It's not great. And then, you know, you would feel better about it if he had a Matt Schaub to back him up or something like that. But we're looking at Andy Dalton as a backup. So definitely a rough spot there. I think Spence and I both graded him as a D in the quarterback range.
Yeah.
and it was really just an uphill climb from there. Marshawn Lynch, he's questionable this week already. He always has injury issues. Sproles he's great last year, but he doesn't get points the way normal running backs do, so that it kind of scares you a little bit. Are the numbers going to be there again? Mike Wallace, Demaryius Thomas, those are two solid wide receivers to back up Fitzgerald in the 2-3 spot. So again, we like the wide receiver depth, shaky everywhere else, and the bench depth as a whole just not quite there. I like the David Wilson pick, but it's going to take a while for him. So another team that lacked depth and had glaring holes in the starting offense, as you might call it, and so therefore we went with I went with a C+ for Silk, and I think
I did as well.
You did as well.
Also C+ for Silk. Just kind of surprised last year the whole going with a young quarterback strategy didn't work out for him at all. With the low finish, I think an 11th place finish, going with Sam Bradford in the draft. This year, trying it once again with RG3 and Andy Dalton with a combined 1 year of quarterbacking experience. Wasn't a big fan of that. Marshawn Lynch, hopefully he can keep up what he did in the second half of last year, but you can't really rely on that too much, I guess, when that's all he's really shown you in 3.5, 4 years of being a pro.
And as we kept saying, everyone expects RG3 Luck they're comparing him to Cam Newton, and I think it's an impossible comparison. The guy had a year last year that we've never seen in the NFL for a rookie, not even close.
Cam scored over 140 points more than any fantasy quarterback has ever scored in their rookie season. So something to take into account when looking at RG3's numbers, as well as Andrew Luck's numbers this year.
It's a good token.
But nobody took Andrew Luck as a starter. Something to keep in mind there.
Yeah. All right, we'll go on to Tom next. So
next up
start this one.
Is Thomas. Thomas went Shady McCoy first off. I believe that was what the. What did he have? Where'd you pick, Tom?
Third pick.
Third overall.
Pick.
Okay, yeah, third pick. Went with McCoy. I think over Rice, right?
He did.
Yeah. McCoy over Rice. Huh?
A little bit of a
surprise. A little bit. But if you like McCoy, you got to go with it. Good up top with the wideouts. Good up top with the running back. Peyton Manning, a quarterback. I can't really endorse that pick too much, having had him last year. Scored 0 points for me. But Antonio Gates in the third, he seemed a little shaky when he picked that, so we kind of had to knock him down a little bit on the grade.
Just early. Just an early
spot. A little early for him.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the bench is okay. The Mendenhall pick late might pan out for him once he comes back. Might have to sit on him for a while, however. D'Angelo Williams, Michael Crabtree and Holmes at the 3-4 wide up.
It's a little scary there.
Well, we didn't like that too much, but I suppose if you've got Julio and Dez up front, that helps take that out a little bit.
We saw a lot of wide receiver depth in this draft. I mean, there's so many wide receivers going into the draft, so a lot of teams have a really solid 1, 2, 3, going into their bench with an even a lot of teams with a good solid 4 as well. So anytime we see a shaky 3 like a Santonio Holmes, it's a little bit scary, at least on a relative basis with the other teams.
I ended up giving Tom a B- for this one, and I believe you were around there as well.
I'm at a B- as well. I had him at a low B- because I have another team that ranked in that area as well, so I went with the lower end of the B-. But potential is there.
Yeah. Couple questions. If those get cleared up, you can see Tom having another winning season. Peyton can play great. He's got some great people to sling the rock to, but just a couple question marks, a couple picks. Maybe guys might have taken too early and would have gone for some different wideouts.
Exactly. Next, we're going to go into the next tier here, the middle tier. How we graded.
Mid-4.
The draft.
Mid-4, yeah.
And I'm going to begin with Noob. Noob, of course, predictably went Tom Brady with the first selection. I actually had joked earlier in the day he was going to take him number 1 overall.
I think you would have, too.
You can't say I was wrong because he did end up drafting him, even though it wasn't at number 1. So, gotta love the Tom Brady pick. Going down from there into running backs, you got DeMarco Murray, who we're watching play right now, Wednesday night. Not the strongest start for him.
Yeah, going up against a tough front 7 performance.
Tough D.
The Giants here.
Got good value with Trent Richardson, although he's dealing with the injury. We've heard all about that. So you got to like the depth though there. I mean, it's a really solid 1-2. Backing up with Cedric Benson, who fell really far in our draft. So I think that's good depth there as well.
Kind of hard to tell what he's going to do this year with Green Bay. They didn't do a whole lot with the running backs last year, but Benson's better than any of them that they had last year. So
it's a starting running back on your bench is a good thing. So you can say the same for his wide receivers. Having a Lance Moore on the bench, I think, is good depth.
I think probably you'll see Moore get in there in place of Robert reaching for Meacham, one of our famous whipping boys here in our league.
Which is a perfect segue to one of the many, well, not many, but one of the few holes that we see on Noob's team here is he did reach for Meacham, and that is his third wide receiver. Spence and I, this was one of our least favorite picks, I think, of the draft.
I'd say so.
Just based on where it was taken.
6th round or something like that?
Spence has a history with the San Diego our wide receivers, and it's...
Not a big fan.
It's not good.
Not a big fan of their performance.
Yeah, so an underachieving Meacham in New Orleans with Drew Brees just doesn't translate for us going to San Diego. But Miles Austin's a great pick, and I love A.J. Green. I wanted him in the 2nd round. And so I think he'll be great. I think he's a great number 1. Texans D is great. Goskowski, of course, knew he was going to go with the first defense, first kicker.
That's right, a couple rounds earlier than everybody else. Yeah.
So he's going to be solid there, which doesn't necessarily translate to a high grade for us. But Fred Davis is a solid tight end. So, I mean, all around you're looking at a decent squad, decent depth, no glaring holes really outside of the Meacham wide receiver, which, to be honest, I might even start Lance Moore this week. I think he's the number 3 and not Meacham.
Moore against Washington, and you got Meacham versus Oakland.
I would see what I have with Meacham and throw Moore out there. I saw him catch at least 1 touchdown in the preseason in the short action he got. So
I think you're a little bigger fan than his bench than I am. Fitzpatrick's in there. I don't really know what that pick was all about. Mike Tolbert late. I know it was late, but that's such a muddled backfield situation.
They're both unnecessary picks.
Yeah,
they are.
Would have gone differently with those two.
I guess I just see them as unnecessary because A, you have Brady, and B, you have Cedric Benson, who's a great number 3. So really, I concern myself more with the starters and then having a good backup at running back, good backup at wide receiver, and I saw that. So my grade with him is actually pretty high. I have him at a B, a high B, compared to.
I have him at a B as well, but it's a lower B. Like if you were looking at grades, Tony would be about an 87, and I'd probably be about an 83 as far as that goes. Speaking of Tony, next up is his new squad name, going for 2. Mixed it up from the old Bobby Jackson moniker. I was a little higher. Yeah, I was a little higher on Tony's squad than he was himself. I went Stafford 1st round, AP 2nd round. Went ahead and grabbed AP with I believe it was around the 16th pick, somewhere around there.
Yep.
Hey, if he comes back strong, he's a 1st round talent. So I mean, it's high risk, high reward right there a little bit. But then he went ahead and grabbed Toby later on too, who he has starting this week. So that was smart handcuff there. Doug Martin as well, a high riser as far as from 2 months ago to now, where people thought he would be in fantasy. Proclaimed the starter there in Tampa Bay, so you can't really go wrong with that right now. Michael Bush, strong backup running back pick. And the starting wideouts are great. Jordy, Jeremy Maclin, Antonio Brown. That's a great 1, 2, 3. Not too keen on his depth. Kendall Wright, Santana Moss, wide receiver depth. He's not a big fan. Probably going to look for make a change there in the first couple weeks of the season.
Trades.
If you're into that.
Yeah,
speaking of trades, Matt Ryan backing up Matt Stafford as well. So I gave him a B overall for this. Just a middle-of-the-road, solid B. Looks all right. Tight end's nothing. Tight end might be a little bit of a problem when he's going after the Grahams and Gronks.
Also trades.
Looking for tight ends. But I gave a solid B for Tony's performance.
And I gave myself a B minus. I'm not going to judge my own team. I'm just going to basically say my favorite pick and my least favorite pick. I guess having to have Kendall Wright fall to me as my 4th wide receiver it's not great. Spence already mentioned it, so that's probably my least favorite pick. My favorite pick it's going to be Matt Ryan. I mean, a lot of the analysts I was looking at and listening to going into the draft, Paul Charchian from KFan. Some of his guys from Fantasy Football Weekly on the Fan, and a couple other websites here and there, Fantasy Football Calculator, those type of sites have Matt Ryan as the 5th, anywhere between the 4th and 6th ranked quarterbacks in the draft. They have a new offensive coordinator with, I don't remember his name right now, but he's going to pass a lot, apparently. And they have the weapons with Julio and Roddy.
Tony Gonzalez, too.
So, and Tony Gonzalez, so I mean, to have Tony Gonzalez ranked in the top 10 of tight ends, to have Julio Jones ranked in maybe the top 5 of wide receivers, and to have Roddy White right there in the top 10 of wide receivers, you really think Matt Ryan's not going to be a top 5 or 10 quarterback? That was their argument, and I kind of like it. So here's my favorite pick as my backup, and he'll be my trade bait, or perhaps Stafford will, one of the two. But I'm really hoping and looking for them to get off to great starts, so that I can move forward from there.
We go from me talking about Tony to Tony talking about me, also in the middle third of the pack here.
Bruff, gray Bruff.
Yeah.
Is what we're going with.
No, I don't know.
It's good. I like it. And, well, I'll just go down the line here with Bruff. He's got Eli Manning, who I'm watching right now. Nope.
Yeah, it's less than ideal play right there. All right, great.
Looking at Eli Manning right now, who we recently loved on the Saturday Night Live this season.
Yeah, big fan of his work.
Say that. Look it up on Hulu.
You there, you up.
There's a
you out.
You up, you out.
That old skit.
Check it out to watch, yes.
Yeah.
But anyway, Eli's solid. Put up the numbers last year. If he does that again, it's a steal where you got him in that third, fourth round. Going into Matt Forte, first round pick. Can't really argue with that. I mean, he was the best player on the board, I think, for most people. I'm not huge on Forte because I'm hoping and thinking that Bush will steal some touchdowns, be the vulture there. But he's going to get his yards. He's going to get some scores. So you had to take him there. I like the pick. Turner, great value where you got him. I think you got him in the third, fourth.
Early fourth, yeah.
Yeah, that's great value as well. You know he's going to get numbers even if his carries are lowered from last year. Going into the receivers, he's got my boy, DeSean Jackson, who I strayed from this year and went Macklin's way. This is definitely the weak spot for Spence, and I think he'll be the first to admit that. With wide receiver, he waited, got his first receiver as DeSean Jackson, which is what I did last year, and I kind of kicked myself for it. But, if he has a different year this year, it could be a totally different story. Titus Young, I love. I think he is definitely a number 2. I don't think this is a reach at all. So I think you got great value there. They're going to throw the ball a ton, Stafford to Young.
Yep.
We're hoping.
We can do
except
that.
for when we're playing each other.
Yeah,
and
not as
Calvin,
much.
hopefully. But anyway, yeah. And then Darius Hayward-Bay, not a bad 3, really. So, I mean, considering where you took them, good value.
They'll work.
Going into your bench, you have Jarvis Green-Ellis. I know you love him. He's a great 3. You took him early, so you better be rewarded there, and you are. Blackman, really solid 4. Could end up being your 3 or 2 or 1, who knows. Hopefully not week 1 against the Vikes, but
later in the season.
Yep, Daniel Thomas. You have a lot of depth here. And Brandon LaFell, great depth. I think that really weighs into this grade. It's just those wide receivers are very scary. Of course, Jimmy Graham. I'm waiting, save the best for last year. That's my favorite pick of yours. He's going to be more of a wide receiver for you than anybody else.
He's basically the wide receiver 1 on this team.
And so that'll save you. And that's I think that pretty much wraps up my analysis for you, which brought me to a B+. Definitely ahead of my team, but not quite in the upper echelon based on those wide receivers. I
don't have much to add except I have the best kicker in the league. Dan Bailey just hit a 32-yarder, got me 3 points. Just kidding. No, Jimmy was my favorite pick as well. He really worked wonders for me. I think I had him 11th, 12th round last year. Loved that. I just basically need 2 of my 4 wideouts behind DeSean to have good years, and I think I should be okay, but that's 2 out of 4 wideouts. That's 2 out of your 9 spots each week, so I couldn't really give myself better than like a B/B- type thing. So
sounds good. And
so
then, even so, you're doing better than last year at this point, where you were probably finding out right about now that Peyton was out for the year.
Right.
You're about
the cold
4
season
days away from finding out your running back is out for the year as
Jamal
well.
early in week 2.
Jamal Charles, so
out for the year.
Nothing but positivity from the Bruff.
So we get past us here. We're up now into the top 5. The last of the middle tier, we have B's. Both of us had him ranked 5th out of the 12 teams. Went with MJD first, and then it was the day after he ended his holdout, so after week 1 here, he should be looking pretty good to have him as a starter most of the season. Pretty good wideouts. Andre, of course, he went with Andre, second and 4th on the board, as always. Steve Smith, Carolina, Vincent Jackson as your 3. That's a pretty good 3 right there.
Absolutely.
Picked up Mario Manningham, and Jerome Simpson.
Depth is lacking in wide receiver, but he has the starting talent.
Went with the Vikings homer picks as his last 2, not to be unexpected from our boy Bees.
Love it.
Of course, he also went with high Ds and kickers, as he's wont to do. 49ers D, Mason Crosby kicker. Again, a little bit of a question mark at quarterback. Matt Schaub, a bit of an injury problem in the past, and Russell Wilson backing him up right now. That's kind of a flyer, but it could be fun at least. I don't know, a couple weeks.
Quarterback and running back 2, I think, are the scares here. Gore, they've been pretty vocal about how they're going to reduce his carries, and you kind of worry with the injuries already there. How many touches is he going to get? Is he going to be the goal line guy? We just don't know. There's a lot of question marks. Could be great, but I think people are really expecting a lesser role for him. And Schaub, again, he's not bad. You can get away with it. Quarterback is the easiest position to hide in fantasy, but the way the rest of the league stacked up, I would have liked to have seen someone taken earlier. In fact, I thought Matt Ryan would have been a perfect position, guy for him to grab it where he took Shep, so just slightly before.
I had B's as a high A. Tony had him a high B. High A. Nobody gets a high A in the draft. What am I talking about? High B. Tony had him a skosh higher at B+. Skosh. Just a tiny bit.
That's correct.
And with that, we make our way into the top 4 as far as drafting went.
Starting with Mr. Birdman. Go ahead.
Yeah, Bird. Picking out of a not desirable spot. Was he 10th, I want to say?
No, he was...
Was he 8th? Or higher?
Yeah, he was higher in the 7-8 range.
Okay, all right. Well, with Chris Johnson, his first-round pick, of the 12 guys that were looking like first-round picks, Johnson was the one I was lowest on. He didn't really inspire much confidence last year, but he did pretty well other than that, I would say, throughout the draft. Got Vic again, but with a lot better value than last year, hopefully for him. Aaron Hernandez was a steal. He came off after Jermichael Finley. Bees takes Finley before Hernandez in this one, and he's looking like he might be a 3, maybe even third, fourth best tight end this year. So that was a great pickup by Bird.
Yep. Going to wide receiver, and that's where he's really strong. I think probably his strongest point. Roddy White, always solid, always consistent. Hakeem Nicks, usually consistent. Had kind of an off night tonight against the Cowboys, as we just watched. But
not the best.
Nate Washington is a great 3. He's kind of a sleeper, and that no one really talks about him. But he had a great year last year. He always seems to put up the numbers. So
Jake Locker seems to look to him a lot. So that's a good choice for your wide receiver 3 there. Good depth at the running back for now too, with Chris Johnson, Reggie Bush, Isaac Redman, and Ben Tate.
Gotta love that, and I know he likes Alshon Jeffrey a lot. Kind of the number 2 guy in Chicago right now, so that's good. Not sure about the Burleson pick, but they are going to throw a lot. I think Jeffrey will probably end up being the guy there. So,
with our grades on Mr. Birdman, I went with a B+. Tony went even a little bit higher than that.
I'm in the B+ range, but a high B+. Definitely put him above some of my other B+ grades, and we'll repost all of these again on the website.
We'll have each of our own top 12 next to the links for these 2 videos.
With the subsequent grades as well. So, moving on.
Next up,
number 4.
Third from the top. We've got...
I'm sorry, third, yep.
Kirby Hansen, and then our number 1 pick, who will be obvious after I said that. But Kirby here. Another really good-looking draft from Mr. Kirby, done by Mr. Ronald Bedard.
Yep.
The duo this year going at it. Ray Rice, first-round pick. I believe they went... Did they go Jennings, second round?
I think so.
Jennings, and then Romo, Jackson in there.
Yep.
Great 1, 2, 3. Pierre Garçon looks like he's going to have a really good chemistry with Robert Griffin, if preseason is any indication. Denarius Moore, pretty good 4. Ruben Randall, nice flyer, also on the bench at wideout.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad depth at running back either. I think Jonathan Stewart fell quite a bit. They grabbed him rather late, and he'll probably get some carries. He just got paid in the offseason, so that's good too.
Yeah, great depth. Romo, solid. No one talks about him that much either, but he's always solid. Had a great night tonight against the Giants.
That's right.
Ray Rice. Anytime you get these top-tier guys, it kind of elevates your status right away, no matter what, and gives you a leg up over the rest of the league. So, gotta love the Ray Rice pick. I love Jennings, and like you said, the depth I think was a big thing for us, which leads us to the grades. Spence went ahead and gave him a B+.
Another B+ there,
and I went with an even higher B+ than
right on the edge of B+,
Bird.
A-, basically.
So just a nudge ahead of Bird. I'm putting Kirby in the 3 spot. Moving on, we're at the 2 spot as we mentioned. Jake Hansen.
It's the defending champ.
The champ.
In the 2-hole, as usual.
Yep, first round, it's the same thing. That high draft pick, Arian Foster. It's a great start for him. He's the guy for me that as the draft went on, you might have heard me. I just kept saying, "Wow, great steal there. Great value there." It seems like he just kept. I don't know if it was so much the draft position, and I think it was a mixture of the draft position and guys falling to him and just capitalizing. But he just seemed to do all the right things at the right time.
He might have just picked a lot of
one little mistake, which we'll hit on.
He might have just picked a lot of guys that we ended up liking as well, but it's a pretty good team.
Yeah, you go up and down. You're looking at Arian Foster and Donald Brown. Really good starting running backs, especially Foster, of course.
Brown's sticking around pretty late in drafts this year, but he's the starter in Indianapolis, so they've got him probably notched in for 15, 20 carries a game. Can't really complain too much about that.
I love Cam. he's still going to get his yardage on the ground running, which is so big for quarterbacks. So even if he doesn't have the year he has last year, he's going to run the ball. And you got to love his potential after the year he had last year.
Also, we got to mention he's got Ryan Matthews as well coming back after week 1 here. So Browns really is 3. Roy Halou, the 4. He looked great in the preseason.
Fantastic.
Kevin Smith, he's got 5 starters. He's got 5 starters at running back.
Great
basically.
depth. His only scary spot might be the receiver spot with Sidney Rice as the 3. He goes Wes Welker into Brandon Lloyd into Sidney Rice.
If you're going to pick 2 wideouts from the same team, I guess New England is the team to do it. It looks kind of weird on paper.
It's scary, but if
Brady's going to toss that ball around to everybody out there.
If they have anything like the Moss-Welker combo, then look out. But I think Jake's already being a little bit active in trades with this because he knows 2 on the same team is always risky, for sure. So
I had Mr. Snake Hansen at an A- level. I mean, B+, like a 91% if we were putting percentages on it.
Exact same for me.
And that gets us to the top of the ranks. We both thought that the guy that snuck into the playoffs last year with a 78 points a game average or something,
and a not very highly graded draft.
Last year, yes. The old Ocho Cinco Sidney Rice 5'6" reach around.
He still managed his way in. We're talking about Brian Woods, everybody.
Brian Woods just crushed it.
The number 1 team in our rankings here. And
I did not pick him number 1 solely off the Drew Brees pick either, I gotta say.
It might have had something to do with it.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, okay. All right.
But, I mean, you look at the team up and down. We're going Drew Brees, elite, into Darren McFadden. A little bit of a question mark, but the talent alone and where he got him, you got to love the pick.
If his running backs stay healthy all year, McFadden, Jackson, 1, 2, that might give you 40 points a week right
Stephen Ridley has the 3. I mean, it's just so much depth on this team as well.
Yep.
We can keep going into the wide receivers here. Harvin, we both love him.
He'll be a 1.
Yep.
The way the punter looks to him when we use him out of the backfield, he'll be a wide receiver 1 this year.
Yep. And then you go into Bo, good number 2.
Yep.
You got him at a great spot again later on. Greg Little, bit of a question mark, but he is the guy there. And worst case scenario, he's got Bolden, he's got Floyd.
He's got 3 guys that could all be a wide receiver,
three.
So.
Agreed.
Great depth.
Yep. Owen Daniels, not bad.
LeGarrette Blount also on the bench in case anything happens with Martin if he doesn't pull through. He's like Daniel Thomas last year and just kind of struggles out of the gate. He's still got Blount there as well.
Value there. I think what did it for me was just the most important position, running back. So solid.
Yep.
Quarterback is elite. Wide receivers are solid, good depth all around. Just an all-around really solid team, and I think we both just really appreciated the choices he made, where he made them. Good draft value all around.
If your name isn't Nick Kirby, he's going to be tough to beat this year, I think.
I think so. We'll find out week 1.
Yep.
So
here we go. That was from Joel at the bottom up to Brian at the top. That is our rundown.
And we can give a quick recap here. Bruff, if you want to go first with your top 12.
Sure. I went in ascending order, starting with Joel at the bottom. I went Joel 12, Connor 11, Silk 10, Tom 9, myself 8, Tony 7, Noob 6, Bees 5, Kirby 4, Bird 3, Hanson 2, and Brian at the top.
And of course, you can look forward to, I think we're all hoping for the post-draft preseason power poll, at least maybe a abbreviated version of it before Sunday.
Probably shorty. We'll do probably more in depth after week 1 when we got some more stats to talk about.
Exactly. But, this is sort of in place of that.
We said quite a bit here tonight.
We did. Yeah. So we'll at least get this on paper, and I'll let Bruff do a little bit of analysis regarding these picks because I know how much we all love that. So my picks, top 12, starting with Joel at number 12. Going into Silky 11, Connor 10, Tom is at 9, I am at 8, Noob 7, Spence goes to 6, Bees goes to 5, Bird goes to 4, Kirby 3, Hanson 2, and Mr. Woods with the number 1 slot.
Maybe it was just us kind of talking them over and thinking the same things, but not a whole lot of difference between our 2 lists to start the year off.
Nope, not much.
Yeah.
Not much switching going on there, not much differential. So
you might think differently, feel free to say so in the comments. We will be sure to club you over the head with logic and statistics.
Yeah, so I think
in response.
That should wrap it up for us here in the first ever installment of Flow Video Draft and Fantasy Analysis.
Thanks for joining us down here in the Racement. We will probably be back later in the season.
Suck it, lick it, and terrible luck in the first round, especially you, Joel.